Hi everybody! Thank you so much for joining me for our newest video. I'm so thankful that you all are joining me a couple times a week to watch the videos and keep up with our lessons. Thank you so much. And today I'm excited because we're doing our third lesson in our Bible art series. So if you look here, you can see that we've done the days of creation, we've done Daniel in the lion's den, and today we're doing the wise and foolish builder. Now this parable is one of my favorites, although if you've been coming to First Baptist for any length of time, you know that I actually love parables in general. And if you remember, parables are a way of Jesus using storytelling to teach a lesson. It's kind of like The Boy Who Cried Wolf, the story of a boy who keeps running to the village saying that there's wolf getting his sheep. And he does this over and over and over again, and there's never really a wolf. Until the very last time there's actually a wolf coming to get the sheep, and he runs into town and nobody listens. And so that story isn't really about a boy and a sheep and some wolves. The story is really about being truthful. And that's what parables are. And Jesus uses storytelling like that to show the people and us today some important truths that we should know. And so today it's the wise and foolish builder. Now it's very important for us to look at where this parable falls in the Bible. Jesus is just finishing up his Sermon on the Mount when he gives this parable. So I think it's very important for us to look and see what came before this parable in the Sermon on the Mount to help understand why Jesus may have told this parable as the closing to his Sermon on the Mount. In the Sermon on the Mount, we hear Jesus say things like what you see here. Let your yes be yes and your no be no, being very careful about the vows and promises that we make. Jesus talks about loving your enemies, not just those that you like. Jesus talks about storing treasure in heaven, not on earth. Jesus tells in his sermon to let our light shine for others to see. Jesus also talks about giving, praying, and fasting without showing off. In the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus tells us, do not worry. He tells us to settle matters quickly. He tells us that blessed are those who are sad, humble, pure in heart. And Jesus tells us in his Sermon on the Mount not to judge. And then here we find ourselves at the very end of the Sermon on the Mount with the wise and foolish builder. So let's take a look in Luke 6:46 through 49 at this parable of the wise and foolish builders. It says, "Why do you call me Lord, Lord, and still don't do what I say?" And that line right there is exactly why we went back into the Sermon on the Mount, to see some of the things that Jesus had just said. Here he's closing out that sermon and saying, why do you call me Lord and you still don't do what I say? So we've seen some of those things that Jesus has said. He continues, some people come and listen to me and do what I say. I will show you what they are like. They are like a man who builds a house. He digs down deep and sets it on solid rock. When a flood comes, the water rushes against the house, but the water can't shake it. The house is well built. But here is what happens when people listen to my words and do not obey them. They are like a man who builds a house on soft ground instead of solid rock. The moment the river rushes against that house, it falls down. It is completely destroyed. So in this parable, Jesus isn't really talking about where you should build a house. What he's saying is that those who listen to the words that he has said and follow them and use them in their lives will be like a house that is built solid. And if you do not follow those teachings of Jesus, then you will be like a house that is built on the sand, that when trials and storms come, you'll just topple over. So what about you? Do you want to be like the house that is built on the rocks, that takes Jesus's truths and teachings, and no matter what storms or waves or winds come, you'll be able to stand strong in your faith Or might you choose not to listen to the truths of Jesus? And when the storms of life and trials and winds and rains of life come, topple over. I don't know about you, but I try each day to be more and more like that house that's built on the rocks. And I don't get it right every day, and I make mistakes and I mess up and I say the wrong things, or things happen in my life and I get worried and I doubt and I question what's happening. But I do truly believe that God is my foundation and that it's a lifelong journey of learning. And I have found in my life that even though storms and trials have come, and even sometimes I've felt the waves crashing over me completely, when the storm passes, I'm still standing because God is my foundation. And that's what I want for each and every one of you. So we're going to take a look now at my Bible art stick house. And I have put it in the sand and let the storms of life come and hit at that sand, and let's see what happens. And then I've also put my stick house with a strong foundation of rocks and let the same kind of weather hit it, and let's see what happens. Which one do you think will be standing?